Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and today it was a lot of the inside. Surprisingly, a lot about the inside. Um, Specifically in a lesson that I actually had to delve into. It has been a word of the day for over a week anyway. It's in this word distractions that I recognize today truly how much it affects my movement forward. Now, I'm not sure if it stops me in any way, but it most definitely fills up space that could be dedicated to make better or to make more movement. And I really got a good wake up call to that today. One of my favorite creators, right, ever. He posted today on the topic of distractions, and it's something that I knew I had a problem with. I'm up. I watch. I'll watch. I'm pretty good if I'm into a lesson online. I can sit right through it. But once that's over, I'm jumping up. I'm doing house chores. I'm scrolling through shorts on my phone. I'm not as bad as most people, I have to say. I talk like I'm a master at the scrolling and stuff. Um, I'm not that way. Quite often, I barely use my phone during the course of the day, and that's the truth. And today, I was recognizing really how much time I do waste. And it could be a whole lot worse. I am grateful because some people have not even started or not even considered. It hasn't even been a thought in their mind to ever even just to start. But I wanted to really put it into practice to see if I could focus a little bit better. I know I can, but can it be a routine that I can set into my life that it can always be there, right? Not just I got a busy day tomorrow. Let's get it all sorted out to make sure that I get to the maximum of what I'm capable of getting done. And then it's kind of, it feels to me quite a bit like that mush, mush, mush. I work my best. I really do when I'm in that this needs to be accomplished, right? When I'm in that zone, and that high stress makes it so that time just flies. But not only does it fly, it shows off my capabilities and doesn't just show those capabilities to others. It shows those capabilities to myself. It's my sense of accomplishment. Being a highly sensitive, being an empath, my sense of accomplishment comes from what other people think of me, and that is unfortunate, right? But I'm getting a lot better, and and it's not like I'm not impacted by the weather of the day, we'll call it, right? I truly am impacted in that, but I understand quite a bit of it I don't have any control over. And being that person that doesn't cry over spilt milk, right? I just move forward, and I've always been that person. And pretty much, right? Yeah, always have to be moving forward. If you're moving forward, you're going to be left behind. And that's a truth. And I don't want to be left behind in what I'm doing. And not being left behind is going to be in the choices that I make not to. And to figure out if I am my own obstacle, if I am my own wrench that's being thrown into the engine of my life, then, right, we need to get that sorted. And maybe in the moment we don't need to get that sorted right in the moment, but we need to recognize if it's a problem. We need to recognize if it's something that we have to put some time into getting sorted out. So, in this lesson that I got today, you know, in being distracted in what I do, right? Could it be one of those obstacles that's right makes, like I said, not making it stop, but making it stall, making it right, those heels in the sand. And I'm thinking possibly it is today. I just wanted to pay attention to myself, right? Not do anything, set my task out. I had one task was to schedule my day, right? I schedule my day from the time I get up until I feel that my energy would be completed or getting low enough that there has to be a little bit something left over for myself for the evening. I'm not saying I'm working right to the evening, but we're going to say, how about if we say 4 o'clock? The 3 to 4 o'clock slot I didn't fill tomorrow because I figure it's my first day putting myself on this little schedule that I want to be able to have that hour if I slag behind, right? Or if I don't slag behind, if I'm ahead of the game, that I can look at the schedule that I made today and readjust it. I believe I can keep this schedule. The timings of it may change, right? Because if I have an appointment and I have to leave the apartment and for 3 hours, well, I can do that, right? And then I could take say my 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. slot and do those in the evening, right? When I come home from whatever appointments and stuff, those things still need to get done. That's still my movement forward, right? But I'm also wondering because there's timings on these. This is the trick. This is the trick that I have timings on these that possibly it will help to stop those procrastinations. Today, just making this list, it shouldn't have taken more than I say maybe an hour and a half to do a good job on it, to make sure that it seems to be reasonable that I should be able to stick to this tomorrow. I've never done a schedule, you guys, for myself ever, never. This is not for me. This is right, like I'm remembering Bob Proctor saying, it's not jail. Right? It's not punishment. And so we're going to see at the end of the day tomorrow if I feel better. Um, Things are rearranged a little bit, but I would like this to be a regular schedule if at all possible. Because, like I said, if I do have to make allotments in that course of that day, that I'll be able to pick up that slot and put it in the evening and do it in the evening, like homework, right? And a lot of those things in that slot, right? If I do it from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., could be those those extras. I know accidents and things happen that I won't be able to arrange it in that slot, but right? Maybe we just shuffle everything down. We have to start somewhere, and this is where I started. I've been waking up in the morning, 7 a.m. I have been doing that probably for a half a dozen years. I've worked bars and nightclubs. I have always wanted to have my own space, to be left alone and to be able to stay up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning watching movies. And right, that's what we did in those days. We didn't have computers, video games, and stuff. We didn't have that stuff. You stayed up late at night, you were watching movies, right? Unless you were a brainiac, you would be doing homework, right? Or if you were one of the it girls, you would be out with the boys, right? And if you were a metalhead, maybe you would be out at a concert or something, right? So anyway, I was that person, and it took coming into the lessons, and it took some practice, but it didn't take much. And I was very surprised within a couple of weeks, especially, I was already well into my 50s, right? That I was very surprised that an old dog could learn those tricks, because that has never been my life ever, not in any job that I've ever had. I've worked midnight shifts and slept all day and got up at night. I worked bars and nightclubs, right? Late night restaurants, late night convenience stores. Like, I I was nocturnal. At least I thought I was nocturnal, but that wasn't the case. That was the habit. That was that was the habit, and it didn't take me long. I think within a couple of weeks I was pretty mesmerized at how well I was sleeping, and the feeling of being tired. Like, that was a really wonderful feeling, because I never used that sense of tiredness as a signal that it was bedtime. I do that now. I say midnight, that's it, bedtime. And within 5 or 10 minutes of going to bed, I am out for the count, right? But I used to toss and turn in bed. I'd stay up all night because I wasn't tired, right? I wasn't tired. I hadn't burnt that energy off. And so yeah, I couldn't be a good sleeper. Just took me a couple of weeks, to be all honest. But you in that couple of weeks, you recognize it and you think, oh my goodness, could it be like this? My sister, she gets 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night. And she was an executive. She was under high stresses and stuff, and she had to have her on top of everything, right? Her noodles had to be ready to go at a moment's notice, because well, her company she worked for pretty much depended on her being, and she was the number one salesman for her customer, and she did that on 2 or 3 hours of sleep. She did that her entire life. She did that. It was pretty interesting to see that we can do that to yourselves, because 75%, right? That's huge. The stress that causes our illnesses, right? Makes you feel, well, makes me feel that maybe I didn't do my fair share, because I am sure grateful for my good health. I'm so grateful for my good health. But right, I was that person that would just kind of walk around the school on the run, that would sit in the tennis courts until the runs were over and then come at the end of the run all huffing and puffing and truly huffing and puffing. And I never even ran anywhere. It's like I was about as physical as not much, right? It just was not my thing. I was not into high impact, and it was my weight too. And it was in that self consciousness. Okay, so I'm swaying away down a branch somewheres, bring it back to the branch. But being nocturnal my entire life, it had become a habit to be that way, and I enjoyed it that way. I love having to the world to myself late at night, and everything was quiet, and right, nobody to bother me, nobody to phone me and yap on the phone or call me and say I'm coming over or just knock on the door and just I just love being I just love being up at night. But oh my goodness, I love being on my routine. I and it's been a solid 5 years at least. Oh, I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna say 6 years now because it was one of my very first lessons. No, my first lesson was make your bed in the morning. Right? First lesson make and that made a difference too, to feel like you're clean and organized and ready for the day, that it's not calling me to say, "Oh, roll into it again." Right? I was never a napper, but right, just the sight of it, of an unmade bed, what it does for your mental well-being, right? It just a untidy, untidy look. Okay, so anyway, I get up at 7 o'clock every morning. Not physically get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, but I wake up. I wake up probably 5 minutes before my alarm goes off on my phone, right? And then I will lay there and I will see in contemplation. Sometimes it's the lessons of the day for me, sometimes it's a revelation, sometimes it's an answer to a problem that I've been working out, or a question that I had and I didn't really have any way to voice it properly, right? That that I lay in bed and I spend time with my cat in the morning, right? Pet her, let her know that I care for her, right? And then I swing my legs over the bed. I check my phone. I check my eBay account, my sister's eBay account, see if we sold anything, and yeah, let's start the day, and then that's in timings tomorrow. I have till 7:30 in the morning to get that done. Oh, but when I'm on my phone, I have to check my weather, right? Check the weather for the day, and again check for any sales and check for the messages. That's what I'm going to do in that half an hour, right? It's usually no more than 5 minutes in contemplation, 5 minutes with my cat, 5 minutes on my phone, and usually I forget to even bring my phone from my bedside table. I usually just put it down there when I'm putting on my slippers and coming out, and it's there, and I have to remind myself in the afternoon, oh my goodness, I never even checked my phone. But that's a good sign in this day and age. That came up in conversation in one of the lessons that I absorbed this morning, and we're spending so much time online, and we have to be very uh careful in what we're bringing into our systems. The shorts, I can get stuck in there, and I have to remind myself to get out of there. I do that numerous times a day, that I get stuck in that scroll. It's never more than for 5 or 10 minutes, but 5 or 10 minutes, if we're talking about distractions, right? That 10 minutes is a half an hour if you're doing it 3 times, right? So in the scheduling, I'm hoping to bring that down a little bit. But also in my conscious mind, I've already decided that the shorts is not something that's going to be healthy for people. Even the motivation and inspiration ones, they're not going to be healthy. It's just too much out there. And the realism in posts now, in the technology of the AI, like lots of it is foolery. You know what I mean? And none of us is invaluable from that, right? We'll all be affected by that. And so I'm going to see if I can try as much as I can to stay in the long form content, but some of my favorites, right? Uh, Post on Instagram, and me myself, I suspect that I will be posting there too. I love Instagram, but we're in a kind of a testing stage, a beta stage of seeing where this AI is going to take us. And I want to keep an eye and make sure that I'm healthy, and then anybody else who's hanging out with me, that they're feeling okay too. Right? I don't want to get sucked into that whirlpool of shorts, right? Being a content creator myself, right? That'd be a good way for me not to be distracted and to save a little bit of time. Come 7:30, it's time to make a cup of coffee, wash my face, brush my teeth, right? I'll have the computer on. I'll go into what's being offered to me. I run pretty much on suggestion by YouTube. They right. I'm sure I'm in some betas and stuff that they're getting an idea of the flow in what I am taking in. So what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll add things to my queue, my watch later list, right? Because I've got things to do, but I want to make sure that I'm going through and picking out uh, my content, and it's content that's full of thought leadership and different, right, religious, spiritual, um, and lots of other ideas in the philosophies and right. We just can't limit ourselves to one sense of ideas when we move in to uh, what's going on in the world. And even though I could never think to be an expert on anything, uh, I have what I'm working on, which is right my own movement, and then my brand, which is also my movement, but hopefully in the anticipation that it could do some help in helping other people do a little bit of movement too, right? But I lost my track on that side branch, so we'll bring it back to the main tree here. In I was sure it was choosing the content, right? And I have abundance of choice here, but I mix it up. I mix it up with what is going to move me forward. And what is the hobby ones, right? Those hobby ones are important too, because you build skills in that, like my bushcraft videos and my metal detecting videos, right? So, and my history videos, like, these are hobby topics for me. But then there's the light things that also, right, they are curious, so I take them in. But specifically in the moment, again, sometimes it's in those little placebos that we think that, right, is just to take us away for a few minutes, and then we can get back to what we're doing. But you know what? Those are the distractions. And today I got a huge dose because I was only, well, to make my list, but also to pay attention. Pay attention to those distractions. And when I paid attention, I was, I think I'm going to have to say, uh, I was shocked. And that's putting it mildly. It was a shock to see how much I procrastinate, right? That in what I have to do. It's kind of sad because I don't want to be that person, right? And it's getting done, but how is that getting done? How am I treating myself in that process? Hello, Melvin. My good cheer is that the quack gave me a perfect physical. I should be good for another year. Hello, Cindy. Hello, Melvin. That's amazing for another year. I'm going to make my appointment this week. Cindy's made a list of a little schedule for herself tomorrow. So I'm going to see if I can stick to my schedule. If I stick to my schedule, I will be doing my live show at 11 a.m. on the dot. Right? So you know I'm on schedule. If I make it here at 11 a.m., you know I'm on schedule because that will be pushed forward at that. And I decided that I'm going to go back uh, into the writing. I was doing some copyright on Instagram, but I think in untangling the wires, I think I have possibly a better opportunity to express myself and actually have a clearer perspective in what I'm writing. So I'm excited to try that. It doesn't mean I'm going to post every day, but it means I'm going to write every day. We're just going to start with my community posts and we're going to write there. So at the very least I suspect that there will be one post a week that I'm going to write on a topic, probably, right? 54 powerful words. We'll pick a powerful word and each week we'll work with that word, right? Yeah. It's interesting. I feel that need to make a little bit of movement. We're going to do it a little bit differently though. And like I said, I have that little bit of concern that, I'm turning myself into my own slave, and I am willing. Cindy is willing to put in that work because that sense of accomplishment makes me feel good to see my creative ideas manifest. That makes me feel good, and to actually feel and see the differences in being able to do that makes me feel good too. I think it's a win-win-win all the way around, right? And if it isn't, right, you guys will let me know. We know Melvin will anyway. But yeah, I should be in at 11 a.m. and we'll do my live show. Yeah, some writing that will be new for me on YouTube. I used to write quite a bit on Instagram. I remember I would write an article, and I had this because I commit to myself that I couldn't go to bed. I don't know if Melvin was around at that time. I couldn't go to bed until I finished my post. But in the pushback, and I recognize that's what it was, sometimes I start my post at, like, say noon, and at 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, I was still, right, not coming to the end of trying to get a message out. And it wasn't like I was a perfectionist. but I had to get something out. And it had to be readable, it had to be expressible, meaning it had to make a little bit of impact, right? It had to make sense. So that was that, and I was a tough proofreader too. Oh yeah. Right? I am not a good speller, but I am grateful that I had Grammarly, or I would have been a tough teacher on myself for sure. If you don't know what Grammarly is, it's just a writing aid here online. There are a few, but I believe that when you use the Google products, because of the betas, because of the research that they do, and because that research is based in the usable what the user, right? That over time it gets to be safer. You get to iron out all those kinks, and there's that sense of security in that, right? So I do like using the Google products when I can, and they get to know me over time. And that's the one thing that I really appreciate about being with Google is, quite often they have the answers served to me even before I even recognize that there was a question. Okay, you guys, my list is done for tomorrow. I don't know how simple it is, how difficult it is. It's the first time in my entire life, you guys. I am 63 years old, and in my entire life, this is the first time I have been on a schedule. Not even in school, I couldn't keep to a schedule. Well, it was a big problem. Recognized today. We'll talk a little bit about tomorrow because it was eye opening today in watching me procrastinate for something that should have taken me an hour and a half. And, I think in total in getting it done, that's probably what I invested in it. But in actuality, I piddled around in this task for hours and hours and hours. We'll get better at this, you guys. Right? We'll get better at this. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, Melvin, for popping in tonight. I always love when you give your good cheer to me. Bye bye.